My name is Annabelle Stenzle.
And I'm Isabel Stenzle Burns, and we're identical twins, obviously.
I am 38 years old, and I was born with cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic lung disease. And I currently work as a genetic counselor and a writer.
I'm also 38. I'm a social worker and a public health educator by training, and I'm also an author. And I'm married. I've been married for 12 years. I also was born with cystic fibrosis, and I'm living a very, very good life right now.
Because my sister and I were born with cystic fibrosis, we received a very poor prognosis at birth. So my parents really dedicated their lives to making our lives as normal and fulfilling as possible. They were told that we had about a 10-year prognosis to live about only 10 years and to enjoy as much time as they had with us as possible. Being a chronically ill child and adolescent, we put a lot of energy into academia, and we focused almost like a distraction on studying. And little did we know how much that actually helped us, and we ended up following the college track and found out that we were accepted to Stanford University for college. And we were extremely surprised. It was probably the first boost in our self-esteem ever, because as a chronically ill person, feeling very self-conscious physically, coughing all the time, we always struggled with self-esteem. So being accepted to Stanford was a great privilege and an honor.
Luckily, we were able to look and feel normal for the first time in over a decade. So that was the prime of our life, I think, that we were so happy to fit in with our healthy peers and to enjoy being college students.
I was initially told that I should consider transplantation when I was 19 years old. I was shocked and in denial, and I said, no way, that's not for me yet. I'm going to fight this disease with as much as I've got for as long as I've got. When I was in my mid-20s, my lung capacity fell to below 30%, and that's when day-to-day activities, just walking around, became more cumbersome. I was short of breath all the time. I was chronically on antibiotics because the lung infections were not treatable. Basically, cystic fibrosis had reared its ugly head in every facet of my life. And breathing just became an ongoing struggle. At that point, I was feeling ready to consider lung transplant as a true therapeutic alternative. I received a lung transplant on June 14, 2000. It was an extremely physically, emotionally, and spiritually rigorous experience, but I have absolutely no regrets. It was the best thing I ever did, and it completely turned my life around and gave me health like I never knew before.
Having a transplant is such a scary procedure because there's so many unknowns. And we knew other people with cystic fibrosis who were transplanted the same year that Anna was transplanted. And 3 of them died. 3 of them lived and 3 of them died. So when I received my lung transplant, I was very scared of what the outcome might be for me. Despite these life-threatening lung bleeds that I had, I kind of didn't want to go on the list. But finally, I declined rapidly. When you can't breathe, because of poor lungs and poor blood levels, it's really miserable. It's a fatigue that cannot be described. So I decided to go onto the waiting list for a lung transplant.
6 years after my first transplant, I actually ended up having a second transplant. I went into chronic rejection, and it was significantly worse than my lifelong experience with cystic fibrosis. It was true suffocation with absolutely no treatment. And it was an extremely devastating realization that these beloved lungs that had given me the best, richest years of my life, of extreme health, had their time. And I was in a wheelchair, I could not walk, I was on oxygen full time, and I knew I was dying. Fortunately, I received a second set of lungs, and I'm speechless to why I'm still alive and how grateful and honored I am to get a third chance of life.
We are both living proof of grace and luck and blessing that we have received not only 2 transplants, but 3 amongst us. About 105,000 people are waiting for organs today. in the United States. For lung transplants, there's probably about 1,600 people waiting on the list at this point, and only about 40% actually survive to receive a lung transplant, and that is because of the shortage of organs that we have in this country. To be an organ donor, you simply have to go online and sign up at donatelife.net. In Japan, in Asian culture, the word for blood is chi, but chi actually means energy. And one of the beauties of humanity is one of the ways we can connect with each other is by sharing our energy through communication, through spirit, but also through giving of our chi, giving of our life and our blood.
We would not be alive today without blood donors. We would not be alive without 3 generous families that gave organs to strangers at a time of true tragedy. So to be alive today is incredible gratitude. It's about being truly alive. It's about enjoying every moment. It's about not sweating the small stuff. It's about taking every moment and cherishing it and living life to the fullest. And since our transplants, we pack each day with what my friend calls living hard and not taking a moment for granted and loving each breath. We were supposed to live to be 10, and here we are thanks to the generosity of our donors, blood and organ. I'm almost 40. We are now doing swimming and running, and we're now hiking Half Dome and climbing mountains all over the country. I'm now playing the bagpipes, things that I never imagined that I could do, thanks to the gifts that I've received to stay alive.